Hey everybody, today we have ourselves a dead tree to remove. It's actually for a subscriber to the channel, which I think is super cool. It's the first time I've ever been able to work for one of my subscribers. And he found out about me through watching Spencer Lawn Care. If you're familiar with that channel, I did some work for him. I'm not gonna say his name, I don't want to expose him, at least not without his permission. What he's got for us today is a dead poplar tree. And it's not great. You know, we never like dead trees. It's got no bark on a lot of the branches. The main trunk still has bark on it. It does have some ugly base decay over here. And that's been going on for a while, I'm quite certain. Looks like a tree's tried to heal over it a number of times, based on this and this and oh, I don't know. It's not great. But it's going to be good enough to climb. There is a driveway here, and if this was a really bad tree, we could get a lift in here. But it's not so far gone that I don't feel good about climbing it, and so we're going to save the customer a little bit of money, and we're going to climb it. So we also have had a couple really big storms here recently, like nasty windstorms, like uprooting trees everywhere. Like two of them, both within a week of each other. A lot of people were without power and all sorts of stuff, but the power's back on. Everybody's pretty good to go as far as I know. And so anyhow, this tree has survived both of those storms, and so it gives me pretty good confidence that it's not going to try and kill me today. And so I feel good about going on with the project like we had planned. Some people would ask in the comments for a video that was no breaks, no editing, just straight through start to finish. And the reason I don't do a lot of that work is a lot of trees take a number of hours, and so to have a video that's 6 hours long is just a little much. I don't want to watch a video that long. So this tree should go pretty quick, and so that's why we're going to film it straight through start to finish today. It's no cleanup, and I can pretty much fall everything, and so it's gonna be pretty quick. We don't have to wait on the ground crew, we don't have to wait on the ropes, we don't have to wait on anything. So with that, I'll put you guys on the helmet and we'll get started. Alrighty, so we got our gear bag and our saw out. That's all we're gonna need for this tree. All the reading equipment's gonna stay in the truck over there. And this is a notch bag. They kind of stole the idea from, I think, Courant, kind of like they do with all of their ideas, it seems. But all we're gonna do on this tree is we're gonna set ourselves a climbing rope. Well, actually, we're not even gonna set the climbing rope. We're gonna go up, take it up with us. But it's gonna be really straightforward. I mean, we're gonna just spike up there. We're gonna take the limbs off as we go. That way, we're reducing weight on the tree as we go. Which, my goodness, can't get my feet in. It could be good. Could also be a little bit hazardous, as it might give us some false hope. But I'm already pretty confident in the tree, so I'm not worried about that today. If you're not familiar with the harness I use, it's a Elderwood Tree Rex. I love it a lot. It's got these nice gear loops that are off, held off of the belt, and it's really easy to clip stuff on. I also use the Edelrid Talons. They've treated me really good. I love having a foot ascender mounted very securely to my spikes. I think that's monumental, and it really picks up the pace, or helps me pick up the pace when I'm climbing SRT. So I'm gonna get all this stuff on, then we'll get started climbing the tree here. Hang with me. Like that, we got everything on, got our flip line, got our handsaw, all that. We'll take our rope and we'll go to the tree. First I want to shut this bag up. It's without fail, if I leave this bag open, it will be full of sawdust. It just always happens, no matter what I do. No matter where I put it, none of that. So alright, so we're gonna just spike up this tree, but we're gonna get our climbing rope out. We're gonna make ourselves a choked anchor. Oh boy. Very nice. We're gonna make ourselves a choked anchor because we don't want to go sliding down the spar if we were to gap out, which is unlikely at this point. I'm getting pretty decent at that. But it's also important to have a rope egress out of the tree in case I were to get hurt or something. It's way easier to just slide down a rope than it is to spike all the way back down the tree. So it'll also serve as a second form of tie-in for when we're doing work, which is super important to have that. and there's just a lot of good reasons to do it. So, let's see here. We'll climb on the Akimbo today. This device is super nice for spar work. I really, really love it. They do wear out, and they are kind of expensive, but in my mind, it's worth it, especially for spar work. It's just so short, so short. So that's why I use it, regardless of the price. That's why I use it anyway. Yikes! About knocked me in the teeth. As bark is all loose on here, that's never great. So the tree might be a little fat, but we're gonna try it. Oh, yeah. See, never gaff out anymore, right? That's exactly what overconfidence gets you. If you hold your systems together like this, it's a little more work than just having one, but it's really not all that bad. Ouch, 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 ouch. Ah! Okay, I'm going to move my flip line to above this branch just to give me some separation on these two systems. If you have them right next to each other and you accidentally let the saw get out of control and cut something, and it cuts both of them, you really didn't do yourself much good by having two of them. So, mighty good to have some separation there. All right, here we go. Now, for the most part, this tree is pretty easy. It's really pretty straightforward. It's just climb and cut the limbs off. The exception is there's one or two big limbs way up there that if I let them hinge out, they'll definitely hit that shed, possibly hit the house. So we're gonna do a little bit of experimenting on our way up and see how this wood reacts and how it behaves when we cut it certain ways, and see if we can use that information to best determine how to remove that challenging limb that's way up there. I am the worst, it feels like, at remembering to hit the chain brake when I shut the saw off. I've been trying for like a year and a half to develop that habit. I just have not gotten perfect at it yet. It's been a little discouraging, but I'm sure it'll come with time, more time. Come on now. There we go. Okay, so this one, the tips reach out, and if I just hinge it over, it's definitely going to whack that tree over there. I don't want to do that, but I also want to know how well this thing will come off and drop butt first. That first limb we did worked really well. It cut really fast. It was really straightforward, and I think that's a strategy we're going to use at the top. So we'll try it on a little bit bigger limb and see how it works. It is super important if you're going to make a bottom cut for you know, when you're trying to drop the butt first, that you make the cuts line up like perfectly. You don't want your top cut to be out further because there's a chance of it getting stuck in the piece and the piece trying to take your saw. You don't want it back further because then there's going to be a little shelf in here and the piece is going to hinge off of there anyway. That worked pretty good. It didn't help that it shattered and shot pieces across the yard, but we didn't even hurt the tree over there at all. We'll go ahead and cut this stub off. I like to make the cuts out here sometimes because it just gives me more consistent grain structure and you're not fighting for space in there. But consequently, you got to make more cuts. I really don't do a ton of spar work like this, where, you know, like on a classic conifer or something, where you just spike up and keep moving your systems up. So I'm really not that proficient at it, and so that's why it probably feels a little sloppy to you as you're watching. Thought I felt this tree moving, but it was just a little bit of a breeze, I think. Oh, somebody's been living in there. That's fun. I hope nobody's home. Nope, doesn't look like it. Alright. On this one, we've got a little bit of challenge. It hangs kind of out over that light pole. And so we're going to put a little hinge on it and try to bring it this way a little bit. Challenging thing is I was also like the butt to drop first just to keep from laying it out across the yard. So let's see if we can't come up with a kind of a hybrid cut that'll do a little bit of both for us. I'll be the first to say I'm not a perfect climber. And if you guys see me doing stuff that could be done better, a different way, feel free to throw it in the comments. I always love learning new things from commenters. I've learned a ton. Probably one of my largest sources of education is from people in the comments. I appreciate that a lot. Okay, so I've made a fairly narrow notch here, and I've angled it this way. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the back cut on the top, and line it up here, and I might hesitate, I might not, depends on how much it moves, how fast it moves. The limit's already this side of the pole a little bit, and if I dropped it straight, it probably would miss. But we're going to do this anyway, see how it goes. Ah! Kidding me? I missed it by a mile, and then of course it broke and jumped and hit the pole anyway. Ah. No, I always forget. Work our way over to this side. Another thing you can use once you get high enough, we'll try it on this dead tree, but I don't think it'll work that good. It's a nice open face cut. Lets that piece hang on longer and tuck in under the tree farther, therefore not sending it out into the yard and making a bigger mess. To say the value of not making a bigger mess is pretty much what I shoot for if there's nothing else to take precedence. When we're dealing with the light pole, that's most important. Making a small mess area is second most important. But when there's nothing, if nothing else, what I try to do is make as small an area of mess as possible for whoever's cleaning it up. I'm not cleaning this one up, but whoever's got to do it would appreciate it, I'm sure. It actually worked really good. That stuff held on real nice. It tucked under there, kept all the mess right at the base of the tree, and the butt fell away, and the butt's the easiest end to clean up, so that worked out real nice. Gotta be careful of kicking stuff off because you'll throw your chain. I've definitely done that a few too many times. Looks like my chain could use a little sharpening. Thankfully, this is a fairly soft tree. We can finish it without having to cut too slow. Just trying to get back on the high side here. I don't know about you guys, but I all too often find myself on the low side just because that's the way it was easiest to move in a particular movement because of gravity. But it's better for your daily longevity to be on the high side. Gives you more control, more comfort. Lots of things. It puts more weight in your feet and your spikes and less feet in your rope, or less weight in your rope. Can be good and bad alike, depending on how you feel, if you've been on your spikes for a long time or not. I wanted to get that branch out of the way so I could get myself a position of place to kind of stand up into. So I can make these other bigger and more critical cuts an appropriate height on my body. You don't want to be reaching up way above your shoulders to make a cut or something. Not good for you, not good for your control over the situation. Not good for a lot of things. So let's get this up a little higher. Somewhere I saw, I think it was a Petzl manual, maybe even a manual for the Xeon. I think it was that you're not supposed to have your flip line any more than horizontal as far as downward position. Like, you don't want to be ever below your D rings. Now your climb line, because it's just kind of a backup, it's not really supporting all your weight, not as big of a deal. And so that's why I've got these in this orientation. Okay, we're getting up close to our challenging limb. So this is a pretty good one that'll serve as a pretty fair example. In fact, I'd even say it's a smidge bigger than the one that's going to be a challenge up there. So we will use it and see how it works. What are we going to try? Let's try that slash cut again. It works, but I don't feel good enough about it. This wood isn't cut. Maybe because my saw's a little bit dull. Maybe it's because the wood's just still pretty hard. I mean, it's not real soft. But anyhow, it's just not cutting fast enough to drop the butt off of there fast enough for me to feel good about it. So what we'll do with this branch, because if we just hinge it out there, it would definitely hit that tree on that side. We'll try and swing this one around more towards the driveway and see if we can feel confident about that, because that's an option for that branch up there too. If we can kind of swing it a little bit to the side to get it to do what we need it to. Alright, I actually cut that hinge all the way off. I cut off a little prematurely, and that's why it still hit the tree. I kind of panicked a little bit, to be honest. I'm not supposed to get stuff into that driveway that would block it from them driving, because it's a neighbor's driveway. So I should have let that hang on just a little bit further. Alright, this one kind of reaches out towards that shed, so we're going to use the wide open face cut and tuck it under here. I will say, if you end up landing branches tipped down, it makes them very unpredictable. And if you're near structures, that may not be a good option for you, because they can land and they can fall over, and you don't know which direction they're going to fall over. You can't really count on that sometimes. I had a video about a trip I took to Cincinnati where that happened, like first cut out of the tree. The branch tips landed first, which is what I wanted. I cut an open face cut to make sure we missed some stuff, some bushes down there. And the tips all crumpled, and then the butt kicked, and it went towards the house. That was not good. It was not good at all. I was not proud of that. I didn't really even take in like the full effect of that scenario until I was doing the editing. I was like, whoa, that's way bad. That's not acceptable at all. Alright, this branch is small enough, we're just gonna whip it right off. When it comes to cutting time versus rotation time, whether you're trying to get the butt to fall faster or the tips to fall faster, it's important to know that if you were to release both the butt and the tips at the same time, the butt will fall faster because it has less wind resistance as it falls. The tips, you know, especially if they have leaves on them, will have more drag and then turn up the limbs so that way the butt goes first. However, what you're doing is as you're cutting this, you're allowing those tips to get ahead of the butt. And so if you can cut off fast enough so there's not a whole lot of cut time, you know, you can get the butt to still end up below the tips. But if it's a big limb and you can't, well, you're gonna have to worry about peeling issues in different trees too. That's a whole other thing. You will have the tips end up being butted. And so when we let it hang on with an open face cut, or a really open, you know, really wide open face cut, you know, that's all about holding the butt up here and letting the tips get a good head start. And that's the whole principle behind slash cutting too, or you know, whatever you want to call that, but same principle there. It's all about getting the butt off with as minimal rotation as possible. And the reason you use an angled cut is so that way there's not just friction holding it up there. You may even have all the hinge fibers severed, but sometimes if the cut isn't at the right angle, the butt will still set on the cut for just a moment, and that moment is just enough for that limb to get too much rotation and cause a problem. Starting to see movement in this treetop now. I'm up here far enough that my weight's pushing it around a little bit, which is definitely evidence of it not being as structurally intact as it could be. You know, if the tree is still probably between 16 and 18 inches around, you know, we would like to see it not moving under our weight. At least not very much. Okay, let me move my flip line above this limb. Okay, this is the biggest limb on this tree, and it's not over anything, so we can kind of let it do whatever it wants. And so I'm probably just going to make a notch and send it. We've already got a mess out in that part of the yard. We're not going to be saving anything by doing anything different. It actually worked out really well. I like to claim that was on purpose. I did, ooh, what is that nasty Dutchman? Just ignore that. But the limb did end up falling really level, and so it didn't go stabbing in either end and making a big old hole in the ground. What do we want to do with this limb? So the limb kind of lays right about there. Not lays. What? That's not the right word. Anyhow, it's right about there. I kind of would like to get it down to that window right there. Don't want to go too far because then we have the shed. I want to see if I can kind of sneak it between those trees. I also want to hold on really long and tuck under the tree if possible. There is the electric service down there that goes through that pine tree. Pretty sure we would miss it, like confident enough that we're just going to go ahead and cut off here at the butt instead of doing something out further. But it's close enough. I don't want to make a mistake. So I'm going to make a really open face notch, and I'm going to point it that way just a little bit. Worked out really nice. It moved both the trees. It's a little bit heavier on the deciduous tree there, but kind of, I don't know if I got scared, but either way, that's kind of what I wanted to do. I just didn't want to send it, I didn't want to yield to the shed side. I wanted to yield to this side. Ideally, it would have just been perfect, but when we can't do perfect, we'll take the next best, right? Less than fun. I believe that would qualify as a canker. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. But I think canker is kind of a largely generic, somewhat specific term for a certain type of wound on a tree. I think that qualifies. Maybe it's not. Maybe canker is something very specific. I can't be certain that I remember, to be honest. Scooch this up. Alright, and I'm going to take my flip line off and throw it above these limbs to get our separation. Oh yes, I can feel this tree moving now. Alright, we're gonna try and slash cut this thing right into that hole there. Ah! The butt actually hit the tree down there and it kicked the butt that way. That's pretty interesting. Okay, we're getting to the final bits here. This is the big challenging limb. And I still don't feel great about it, to be honest. I've tried a couple different techniques on the way up, and I think the one I'm going to use is one I used early down there when I was trying to miss a telephone pole. I'm going to put a pretty narrow face cut at a pretty hard angle in the bottom of it, trying to get to swing over a little bit. And then we're going to make a top cut. Then we'll possibly hesitate a little bit on the top cut. We'll see. We will see. I don't like relying on cuts for obstacle avoidance. Cuts are, you can be really good with them. I will tell you I'm not the best with them, but there's more opportunity for error in a cut than there is in a rig, by a long shot, in my opinion. And so I tend to rely on rigging more than cuts for obstacle avoidance. So that's why this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, to be honest. So it's not my favorite situation, but based on that other limb down there and how everything else went, I feel pretty good about it. That big limb down there, I hope you guys can see that. If we draw ourselves an imaginary radius line, it ends up just barely touching the house, I think. And that one we put a traditional hinge in and let it go. And so that, you can see there's probably 6 or 8 feet, well, maybe 5 or 6 feet, something like that, between the base of the tree and the butt. The branch got that much farther away from the tree. Now, this limb and that limb, there's probably a lot of differences. I don't know if the angle is the same or the weight out there is the same or anything like that. So, I can't say they're identical, but they're pretty similar. And that's going to give me enough confidence to make the cut I want to make, which is exactly what I described a moment ago. So, let's give it our best and see how it goes. Yes, perfect. It actually ended up landing a lot more flat than I was hoping. I want it to be a little more spear effect and a little less rotation. But there was plenty of room there. It all worked out. I feel good about it. It actually ended up farther away from the tree than that other big branch did. So, even though we did exactly what we did down there, it didn't go exactly the same way. Which kind of backs up what I was saying about cuts being a little less reliable than rigging. Now, the average viewer may ask, well, if that's the case, then why didn't you rig it? Why didn't you bring it a rope up and self-rig? And self-rigging is definitely a technique, and to be honest, I've done very little of it, and I don't like it. I don't like having to hold onto a rope and make a cut, or put my saw away quick and grab a rope. There's too much that can go wrong in that scenario for me. So I really try to avoid it unless I absolutely have to do it. And there's almost never a time where I absolutely have to do it. So I will, in fact, if I have to rig a limb, I'll bring a helper to a job just for that reason, if nothing else. So what we're gonna do next here now is this limb, and we're gonna try and drop the butt first to get it to not do too much damage to that tree over there. Part of the challenge is that it's definitely going to hit that tree, and when it hits that tree, we gotta know what's gonna happen. It's likely gonna push those tips back at us. And so we got to be prepared for that. I've definitely been hit by the tips of limbs, and it can mess you up. I've never been hit hard enough to like injure me, but I've been hit hard enough to respect the cut a little bit more, if you know what I mean. Looks like it knocked a little bark off, but on some small limbs, I'm sure it recovered just fine. And loose bark on this tree has made spiking quite a challenge. Kind of giving me one more thing to be aware of while I'm up here. Wiggly dead trees. Definitely one of my least favorite categories to work in. You know, something I just noticed and is pretty interesting. When I started this tree, there's a lot of dirt buildup on the top of the teeth, which is usually a good indicator that your saw is dull, and the teeth are heating up, and they're gluing whatever fluids are in the tree to the top of the teeth. And now it's clean, and so that's kind of an interesting thing, I think. I didn't stop and sharpen the saw. There's still, like, this tooth has a little bit of damage to it. Most of them look pretty good, but I just think that's interesting there. This tree has also got a lot of water in it. Maybe that's a part of it. Maybe those teeth are getting steam cleaned one at a time, piece by piece, each cut. Okay. Wow, this top is a lot bigger than I thought it was from the ground. It doesn't have clear weight in any one direction. I'm not loving this. In fact, it looks like it has weight that way, mostly that way, which isn't going to work for us. I'm going to have to think about this a second. So after sitting up here and thinking about it for a little bit, I think the only option here is to go down, get a rope, come back up, tie it on, go down, pre-tension it, then come back up and cut this top out. I don't like that plan, but considering the options I have and the position I put myself in, I don't want to leave this tree partially dismantled and come back with a helper or something. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Alrighty, we're back up here and I have the rope. I have it up over that big union up there. And I did the rightest thing I could. I went and I found a helper. That was the right thing to do. The more I thought about it, everything else was just a little bit too much on the side of foolishness. And so I went and found a helper. So we're gonna come down here just below this union. So we got a little more meat to cut in. Also gives us a little more better vantage point on our pull rope tie-in point up there. And we'll make our cut. Now, I don't want to be on the downhill side of this thing. I don't want to be on the side of it where it's going, just in case something goes wrong. I don't want it to come back on me. So, we're going to cut it from this side, I think. Oh, baby. Actually, maybe we'll cut it above the union here. Goes the wrong direction down there. Once I tell you to pull, you'll just keep pulling. You won't have to stop. Okay? So just be ready. It's not going to be like any kind of a rush or anything like that. Okay, here we go. Okay, our base cut looks good. Let's start on the back cut. There she goes. Go ahead. Nice. Woo! Oh man, I still ended up with something on the house. What is that? Oh brother. Even when it goes right, it still can't go perfect, right? Okay. So that's done. It really didn't take much to send it over, but it was more than I wanted to do by pushing. I don't like cutting and pushing. That exposes a lot of bad stuff from your body to a lot of bad stuff on the chainsaw. And so I don't do that. And I don't know, I probably could have pushed it. It really didn't take much pulling, but pulling was the right answer. No doubt about it. So I'm gonna cut maybe a couple chunks off of here, and then we're just gonna follow the stick. Whoop, right over there. Not too hard at all. Alrighty guys, I think I forgot to turn my camera on there. I am so sorry. It wasn't much. Basically, I just cut a piece off of here, and then I tied this rope on. So we're gonna go down, we're gonna make the felling notch, and we're gonna pull the tree over. All right, it's about time to tip it over. Got a little pre-tension on it here with the rope jack. And I kind of like, I mean, I shouldn't say I like, but one way of doing this is to put a little bit of a good, well, maybe even a good bit, but some pre-tension on it. I see the tip rocking up there. Put some pre-tension on it. It's got a little bit of a back lean. So we'll go over there and we'll make our cuts and we'll let the pre-tension pull it over. And just in case it's not enough, we'll use some wedges. And it should go just fine. Should be a good sized hinge. The pre-tension wasn't quite enough, so I'll give a little wedge action. Oh, there she goes. Perfect. Very nice. Oddly enough, I took my hammer away from the stump rather than the saw. That was the wrong thing to do. Wow, that's so wet. Wow, look at the growth rings in this. Maybe I'm not seeing that right, but that looks like a full-on inch right there. That can't be right. They look smaller over here in the hinge wood. There's a lot more punk in there than I thought. Worth observing here that our bad spot in the stump, or base decay, came all at least this high into the stump. You can see this lighter area. This is all punky, all soft, had no hinge value. And you can see it real clearly on the edge of the log down there. Obviously it was enough to do the job, but it doesn't feel good to know that maybe a fifth, something like that, maybe a fifth of the trunk was compromised in some fashion. Again, like I said, it had survived those last 2 storms we had, and there's a lot of trees that are broke off of the stump and uprooted in our neighborhood still, just around here. So I don't know, it's one of those things. You guys definitely, I mean, my videos are not instructional videos, they're for entertainment, you know, that's the purpose of them. But there's a lot of stuff I don't do right still, and, you know, maybe climbing this tree is one of those things. And so it's important that you know, double check your education and make sure you're learning from good sources. You know, a YouTube education is not a complete education. You know, I used to think it was, and I did a bunch of dumb stuff, and I had some kind folks point it out to me very gently. And I'm very thankful that they did, because otherwise I'd still be doing that stuff. So, anyhow, just make sure you check. Make sure you check where you're learning.